how am I supposed to review this episode? What, I'm going to spend an hour just going, oh, this was great, and this was great, and this was awesome, and oh, that was so cool. You know, this is either going to be a very short review or a very long one. I can't quite be sure which yet. It is the giant battle to end all battles, the Great War itself. The living versus the dead, as the Night King attacks Winterfell, and man, is it good. It is Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 3, The Long Night. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Game of Thrones. So, I think we'll probably have a couple spoilers within this. So, if you haven't watched the episode yet, what are you doing? Go watch it. It's freaking amazing. Also, just to let you know, if you are unfamiliar to our reviews, we do have our quick jump index system. That's right, I tend to talk for quite some time, but if you want to jump to a favorite spot, come back later, rewatch something, just look down in the description below. There'll be a whole little breakdown of this review, little time codes you can click, jump right to your favorite spots, watch this review in any order you want. So, yeah. I'm not kidding when I'm curious about how the heck I'm going to review this. I'm not really sure what the plan is because there are so many moments. In fact, I might end up just trying to hit a few important bits because, look, we've been looking forward to this for a long time. There's been a lot of anticipation, and I have to say, it far exceeded where I thought we were going to go. There were surprises, there were unexpected moments, there was very quiet, they shifted the tempo around, they did an amazing job of getting us into the mood, into the world, feeling the way the characters are feeling, and then really experience just the terror that this type of fight would entail. It is a masterpiece 90 minutes of television. Well, maybe a little bit less, I think, time-wise or so. I don't know. They were squeezing a lot of shows coming up on HBO right before this episode because they know how many people are going to be watching. But really, just an amazingly well-crafted, very impactful. And we did lose quite a number of characters, but not as many as I thought. To be honest, I thought that it was going to be a very short list of cast members by the time this episode was over. And we did lose some people, but honestly, I was surprised it wasn't a lot more. But let's kick things off with the episode opener. And I have to say, I am a huge fan of single camera shots, long shots uninterrupted. I find they really pull you into the world. They really make you feel the world is alive because you're walking and moving through it. You're not thinking that that's just a set, that's just a front. These are carefully lined up shots and everything outside of the field of camera is completely faked and lights and all of that. When you have these long single camera uninterrupted shots, it really pulls you into the world. Everything, to me, feels so much more real. And I think starting with Sam and handing out the dragon glass and moving and following him through and reacting as people are preparing and getting ready, and then shifting over to Tyrion and following his reaction around and just hearing the way everybody was moving and setting up, it let us know where everybody was, and it really, I think, emotionally connected us to that moment. You could feel the tension ahead of time. It was palpable. We had beautiful shots of all of the armies laying up, and it's just, again, it was just an amazing opening 10 minutes of getting us into this world. I think they did that just amazingly well. And then our first encounter, I mean, we got Melisandre showing up, the Lone Rider, lighting the Dothraki swords up, which was beautiful. Just an amazing, again, flame shot going, and later when we saw them charging to the dead, and we have that shot up where Dany and Jon are, again, just beautiful bit of this wave of light moving across the battlefield. It was very intense. And then as they collide with the first wave of the dead there, we just get those brief shocks from then. But I think the perfect moment was back at Winterfell when you see all the soldiers lined up, watching the lights collide in the distance and then slowly start winking out. Really, I mean, we're building fear, building tension. Then the horses arrive, and men arrive, and Jorah's dragging himself. Is he a dead man? Is he a live man? He's wounded. I mean, just each of those little bits through the darkness, really, it just ratchets up the tension amazingly well. And then when we do finally have that first massive wave of the undead, there is no way to prepare for this type of fight. For the numbers, all of their planning, all of the dragon glass, everything that they had to set up as defense deals with an army that tries to move, to adjust, to change, to just volume-wise is not as dense. The fact that it moved like water, just pouring over all of the Unsullied and the first line of defense and everything was just, again, it just... If you're not scared at this point, you're totally terrified as soon as the dead come up. It was just, again, it just carries so much emotion. It really just brings things in. Just, how are you supposed to fight this? You are overwhelmed. And I think bringing us to that point really just tells the horror and the hopelessness that this battle entails. And yet, must fight on, and boy did they. Oh, but before I go any further, do want to mention someone we haven't seen for a while, Ghost, showing up with the first line, running up with the Dothraki and Jorah and everyone, the cavalry on the first wave against the dead. Don't have good feelings for Ghost, though, because we never saw Ghost again. Could still be out there, could have run, but yeah, I think that's an unofficial body that we're going to find later. But it was great to see. Hopefully, Ghost of Well just disappeared and will reappear later on. Fingers crossed. Now, one thing that did frustrate me just a little bit in that opening sequence was visibility. Look, I know it's night. But I would think that there would be some fires set up, oil pits, things like that up in the outer edges. Now, I know they're limited with people and time, obviously. The dead showed up much faster than they really had time to prepare for. So, I mean, I get this in a way, but knowing that the dead are coming, setting up some fires to see things, just even a little distance away before they're right on you, I don't know. I just thought that might be a good idea. But luckily, a little bit of fire does come their way in the form of our dragon fire, which, if you watch the behind the scenes later on after the show, they talk about how Dany was really affected by the loss of the Dothraki. Because really, that's it. They're the horsemen, and they go in and they're taken out by the dead. So her Dothraki army is kind of gone. You can see how that would have a strong effect on her, which brings her into battling and with the dragons and so on, sort of changes the plan. I'm glad I saw that afterwards, because I kind of thought having some dragons around to smote these dead would be really helpful. So I thought that was going on, like, I thought maybe they even a little delayed, if anything, but I thought that line of fire, again, even just giving a chance to see things is going to be helpful, not to mention good against massive, never-ending waves of the dead after you. And I gotta say, we had some wonderful dragon battles this episode. It's really the first time we've seen anything to really any big extent. A little bit in last season when they attacked going after the caravan from Highgarden and everything. But still, this, I mean, really actual dragon battles, which was super cool to see. The downside is it was kind of hard to tell differences between the dragons. I know, like, Regilon has a sort of, like, silvery back versus Viserion, which, of course, has torn wings and later on nice chewed up side of the face right there. But between that and the fog, the snowstorm, that was the only unfortunate thing. Now, it kind of keeps things all up in the air, and you're not sure what's happening and who's attacking who, and maybe it's holding at tension that way. But I did find it a little frustrating. However, snowstorm being, I have to say that was a bit of brilliance also. I mean, the Night King is, if nothing, a smart... he's a general that's planned things out for quite some time. Because never really thought of bringing a massive snowstorm in order to obstruct visibility so the dragons would be useless against all the ground combatants, the dead. I thought was again cool, and also keeps them from planning everything, disrupts it all. It was an unexpected choice, and that was one thing I think they did a good job in this episode, keeping things fresh. That was something I would not have expected them to do. And yet it makes total sense, and it really disrupts Dany's and Jon's plans for watching over Bran and taking out the Night King. So, loved seeing that. Great battle, dragon battle sequences. I'm curious if Regilon died or is just wounded. Because when Jon and the Night King were going back and forth, definitely a lot of scratching, scales being torn off, wounds being made, necks being bitten and such. But I wasn't entirely sure when Jon went down. The dragon did look dead. I mean, it was in a controlled landing, wounded. But I don't think we saw him for the rest of the episode. So maybe that's something next week we'll find out. Is Dany down to one dragon? Super glad that Drogon, by the way, survived that attack from the dead. Great shot of all of those dead bodies, or the dead falling off of Drogon as he's trying to fly up and get away. It was an amazing shot, and I'm glad Drogon survived as well. Just not entirely sure if that's the last dragon or if Regilon's still around, just injured. So let's take a moment and say goodbye to those that we lost this episode. Ed, our Night's Watchman from the beginning, now gone. Saving Sam, very appropriate. And hopefully his body was burnt amongst the dragon fires. That's what he said. The last of us left alive, burn those of us that are dead. So, sad to see Ed go. Lady Mormont, Lyanna Mormont, going out like the badass little girl that she is, up against a giant. That was sad to see her go. Not unexpected, of course. Small, still holding line right inside, making sure everybody gets in safe, holding the door, doing her job up into the last bit. Battle cry attack was just... if you're gonna go, you're gonna go. Mom was a great warrior. Lyanna, you went as a great warrior too. Beric dying, helping to save Arya. We will get to her in a little bit. Serving as kind of a little blockade too, holding on to the doorway, holding back some of the dead who allow the Hound and Arya to get away. And goes out with a, I did love it. He's trying to say something smart and cute and maybe even touching, but dies just before that. So kind of sad for that to go. Jorah also going down, saving Dany. If there was a way for Jorah to go out, this was going to be the way. Has been with her for a long time, always wanted to be at her side, is the woman he loves that isn't going to love him back. So this is sort of a perfect way. Jorah has not expected him to go during this battle, and he goes out appropriately well defending Dany. And of course, Theon, who really goes out like a badass. I think total redemption here. Love that he has that moment with Bran initially when he goes to apologize, and Bran, of course, is just, everything you did led you back to where you're supposed to be, right here, home at Winterfell. Really, I think, strengthens Theon's characters for the battle to come. Ironborn really holding their own. I thought they were going to get overrun just like the front guardsmen, but no, they held it. And in fact, even towards the end, Theon by himself just mowing the dead down, stood so much longer, fought so much harder. Of course, when the Night King himself does arrive, everybody else kind of stops. King's there. No more battle. It's about to go down. You know, it was time for Theon to go. Did get the thank you from Bran. Did sort of go full circle, bring, like I said, with his redemption arc, so he could die properly. I know the visual of running into your destiny full force, you know, is a perfect way to go, is a perfect descriptor. Tactically, I didn't think that was particularly sound, but hey, if you're going to go, maybe you're not really making total tactical decisions. So, yeah, like I said, sad that we lost some people, but not as many as I thought. Oh, and of course, Melisandre there at the end did promise our Onion Knight that she would not live towards till dawn. So I thought she was going to be taken out. Honestly, I thought she was going to be taken out when she lit up the trenches, which was kind of a cool bit right there. Needing her to light all of the trenches at once, just like lighting all of the swords. Can't just have the one torch right there in the front trench. You have to get the rest of them. So, again, I thought that's where she was going to go. Certainly waiting to the last second with the dead coming right out before. Boom. But yes, by the end, she did come back to Westeros to die, takes off the necklace, walks into the field of battle. Old lady just turned into dust there. That super long life gone. And, you know, it was time for her. But of course, the main focus of the battle is the Night King. Gotta take him out to stop the army of the dead because, as we saw pretty much immediately, there are way too many of the dead to try and survive. And honestly, people survived a lot longer than I thought they would. Like, they did an amazing job with the dead. Again, that idea of almost like water, a never-ending torrential wave just overcoming the living. Even as they fell back, you could just, as they're holding, and again, even, you know, we have that water idea, that wave of the undead, but even like the Unsullied, all of the armies, the way that they were organized in troops, as they were falling back, it was like each one comes and then they squeeze up together and then they fall back into line. I mean, everybody was moving. It was a very cool way to see some of those overhead shots of the armies trying to organize and do their proper retreat while this other wave is just pouring through the front lines. Was astounding. When the dead hits the walls and start climbing up, it slows them down a little. Some people on the parapets, you can start stabbing and getting as they come over the edge, but even then, like just never-ending army ants, they just overrun the walls, and again, it was creepy and unsettling and very well done. But all of this being orchestrated for the Night King. Got to end the Night King. Had a few chances here. Up in the air, Dany did a little attack while Night King was attacking Jon. Knocked down, felling to the ground, though, again, it's just height. That's not going to kill him. Dany does get him face to face with Drogon in the Ring of Dracarys. No dragonfire to kill. I've seen a few threads where they have implied the Night King has been immune to fire. There have been several shots where the Night King has walked through fire, even when we had the dragons attack up end of last season. taking out some of the lines that were still burning dead, and the Night King would kind of walk up through them. So they've implied in many ways the Night King could be immune to fire. Whether that means that the Night King is secretly Targaryen or just super magical, could go either way. But I thought this was sort of a perfect way to, again, would be too easy to just Dragon Blast the Night King and take him out. Love the smirk after the fire. Little emotion from the Night King there. Little surliness. Then Jon trying to do his run-in attack. And I have to say, I appreciate Jon not yelling. Just running up to the Night King quietly, but not doing the ah, and really letting know his position. Again, doesn't get there fast enough. The raising of the dead right there. You knew it was going to happen. That's what the Night King does. Takes out the armies, takes their dead, integrates into his army. Jon almost getting to him before he is finished. But no, that seals off Jon's way, allows the Night King to come in, just go through Winterfell with the generals, and right up to take out Bran. And then there was the one thing that kind of, to me, started pulling away. There's a lot of momentum change throughout this episode, but when we get to that whole kind of final sequence and the Night King moving through and doing the last bit and the music is sort of going, it was, I don't know, maybe it was just simple piano playing, maybe it was the musical choice, but it started to almost be a little too much, a little too draggy, a little too cheesy, especially the staring back with Bran, and all I'm thinking is, Bran, why did you give Arya your knife? You could just stab me the Night King right there. That would be awesome. The Night King staring down at Bran, and Bran staring up and just, stab. That would be the most unexpected ending right there. But alas, Bran did give that knife away, and thank God, because out of nowhere comes Arya in our Scene of the Week. You know it has to be. Lot of choices with Arya. Like I said, I'm going to get to her right after this. But this was awesome. And part of it was just the visual. One, because of the quiet, because we haven't seen her for quite a chunk of time at this point, since she left Melisandre with the whole, what do we say to the King of the Dead? To the God of the Dead? Not today. So it was perfect because they pulled her away from our vision. We weren't pulling through all the little flash sequences like Jorah fighting and Jon fighting against Viserion and, all of these other little battles. We haven't seen Arya for a while. And that was a perfect time to do it because as it's slow, as we're wondering, why is this drawn out? What's going to happen? And just having her fly up behind the Night King, much like the dead were attacking the Knights, the defenders in the very beginning. In that onslaughty wave, we had a lot of the dead jumping and flying through the air onto our Night's Watchmen, onto Ed and Sam and everybody else in the front lines and Tormund and such. So it was kind of reminiscent of that, seeing how Arya just sort of appears out of the darkness, flying through with that knife. Yes, it would have been too easy to just take out the Night King right there. He's a badass. Stops her, grabs her, about to choke out, and she does the full-on Winter Soldier knife drop, grab in the other hand, stabby. They mentioned in the afterwards it's the same spot where the Night King was formed and the children of the forest stabbed him with the dragon glass and turned him into the Night King. She does the same thing with the blade with the knife. So again, a full circle bit. And you had to feel that the Night King had to be taken out by about an hour, just over an hour in. This wasn't going to be a delayed. We obviously know the Night King wasn't heading down to King's Landing as some people had theorized. There is no need. His focus is the Three-Eyed Raven. Take the Three-Eyed Raven out, he effectively wins. He beats the memory of man. So we knew that the Night King had to be taken out by the end of this episode. Was not expecting Arya to be the one to fly in and take him out. But of course she would, because she is. And the Queen of Death. the warrior supreme, the badass of Winterfell. And when I say badass, I mean the total badass. We're going to take a moment just talking about Arya's battle skills and sequence in this. From the top, saving the Hound as he retreats in with the arrow play. Beautifully done. And in fact, we'd followed the Hound here, and I love how we bring Arya back into it. Is they deal a lot with the changing the pacing of the battles with a lot of music, temporal changes. We get a lot of those sort of muted, quiet moments and then come back to very loud bits. And I think they varied that to really keep things interesting throughout the episode. Before we get that second shot of Arya, we have the Hound kind of in fear pulling away. Everything is quiet, everything is muted, everything is oppressive. You know, that fear, that tension, everything is palpable. And then boom, the music pops up and we get Arya jumping out with that double staff, just beheading and slicing and cutting and just, oh my God, the warrior queen on the battlements. Just, they have handled her fighting and the fact that she is death incarnate amongst the living so beautifully well. I loved her staff work. I love the lack of fear, willingness to take on the numbers that she shows out there. Very smart fighting. It's just really the pinnacle of what Arya has been becoming over these seasons. I think was established here perfectly. Even when she's in the stairwell and with the dead are all lined up and she just jumps and rolls over the top of them to get to the bottom and get past them was awesome. We've got, you know, the Hound sort of shrinking away. We can't win. And Barrack's looking up, pointing at Arya, is like, tell her that. She's flying off battlements and holding onto roofs as the dead are flying past her, kicking in, and she's just non-stop. Which is great. Again, re-energizing the Hound. And I love how we're seeing this, you know, animosity seasons ago. Now the Hound is like dedicated to protecting Arya. Her being wounded and being kicked in, that's what got the Hound moving and going. I mean, and it was just, I love that development of a relationship. It's so unexpected, but so perfectly correct. Then we get the whole sequence inside the library, taking the intensity of the battle outside, now bringing it in quiet. Arya is wounded. She's pulled back. She's got to take it easy. She's going to be overwhelmed. She's lost her staff at this point. Now ninja sneaking through the library as the dead are wandering and looking for anybody alive to go. And, you know, if you signal one of them, all of them are going to come up. So it gets a very perfect cat and mouse bit. Almost discovered under the table until she gets out. Finally, the escape and turns the corner. One more dead right there, about to get away, but her reaction's, to stab. Very gross, the throwing up of blood onto the shoulder there, though. Ew. But even then there, as she finishes that entire sequence, gets behind the door and pauses, and then we just get the sound coming up. Discovery of one dead, they know someone is around, and then the door's just falling and her taking off and running. I mean, it was just, again, perfect bit. That whole sequence, that was about to be the scene of the week, by the way, before she did the whole taking out the Night King with the Winter Soldier double knifey stab. So that was an amazing sequence. Very tense. And I thought with a great payoff of then just being chased in that side of just running through the darkened hallways of Winterfell. And then being Barrack and the Hound coming back across her that ends up saving her, and then the runner with Melisandre with the, what do we tell the god of death? Not today! And sending her off to go end up killing the Night King. So again, beautiful arc. Just, I love Arya. You guys know, you've watched the reviews. I love that character, and I think just handled and shown beautifully well. Both the intensity, the sneakiness, the dedication, the badassery, and of course, she takes out the Night King, so she's number one here. And didn't I say last week, the moment everyone's saying you're going to be safe in the crypt makes me concerned that nobody's going to be safe in the crypt? Yeah, that ended up being the case, because of course, You have the Night King, who can raise the dead. And who's in the crypt? Dead people! So, always going to be a bad thing, and it was just sort of a ticking time bomb while the episode went on, which I thought was beautifully done. But stuck inside the crypt, Tyrion and Sansa getting a little chemistry together, I think. I loved how everything sort of started off. Sansa first coming down into the crypt, Arya sending her down with the dragon glass knife. Use the stabby part. But as she comes in, finding Tyrion, just looking around, women, children, people that can't fight, and little Tyrion. And he's just as happy about being there as she seems to say with her glance of like, yeah, you're useless. We're all useless. And then the little discussions about their relationship, and Sansa saying some nice things. You were the best of them. That's a terrible thought. And even the idea wouldn't have worked. Why wouldn't it? Sure, dedication to the Dragon Queen. Sansa's not so much of a fan. But I love the sort of, again, closeness. He was always kind to her. He always treated her with respect, despite everyone else. And I think she's really sort of seeing that value in his character. And when the dead awake and everyone's running, and we got just those moments of Sansa and Tyrion hiding behind the from the dead there. It was sweet, and it was quiet. They were able to really show that kind of respect, and I'm not going to say love or anything like that, not at this point, but Tyrion was definitely feeling it, and I think Sansa was even sort of recognizing that, they actually would make a really interesting couple, and I think that there's a respect level there, and a willingness to really talk straight to each other, that to me, I like that possibility. I'm not going to say it's going to go that way, but I like that moment. The fact that they're both also still alive is a definite plus. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, Jon really should have been dead after the dead were risen around him, and is chasing the Night King there, and Night King rises up the dead, sort of stops Jon, and then Night King walks off. I love that too. It's a mic drop moment. Here's the dead! You deal with them, I'll see you later. Should be another smirk from the Night King there. And I know Jon's a great fighter, but there was a lot of them. He's in the middle of a battlefield. There was nobody else. There was no backup there. He really should have been dead. I'm glad he's not. Awesome that Dany came, did a little burning. Almost thought there was going to be like the dragon fire burn and Jon doesn't burn, showing his Targaryen blood and proving to Dany and that kind of moment. In fact, I was kind of expecting that a few times, especially with this standoff with Viserion there. God, and like I said, I love the half bite being chewed out of Viserion's face there, and the dragon fire kind of spurting at that open. It was just it's nasty and cool. But really, was thinking that at some point in this, Jon was going to be hit by fire, was going to be hit by dragon fire, and not be wounded. We saw Dany, was one of the things that saved her, is she and Drogon were getting hit by dragon fire. I don't think other dragons, I think they're immune to fire. It would seem to make sense. In that sense, but Dany not being wounded despite the attacks by Viserion. So, of course, that's proving, we know she's fireproof and so on. But I was expecting some moment like that to happen with Jon, and it did not. But I still think, surrounded by all he by all means, should have been taken out at that point. Glad he's not. Also, speaking of Jon, there was that scene where he's trying to get to the Night King and he's moving through the castle, and we get those shots of all of his friends, Sam being bogged down by the dead, and shot of Brienne and Jaime there, and just everyone as he's sort of moving through, but he can't stop and help anyone because he has that purpose. He's got to get to the Night King. He's got to save Bran. I love that. I love that we got to see Jon being pulled emotionally away from what he needs to do and still being dedicated to doing what has to be done. I can't save Sam. I got to get to Bran. I can't help Brienne. I got to get to Bran. I can't help any of those other people. I've got to get to where I've got to go. Even if you fall, it's more important to get to Bran. You know, that's emotionally painful for Jon Snow. And I really appreciate them showing those moments and showing that Jon knows that he has to do this one thing. Obviously, it didn't end up being necessary for her, but still, the dedication and that willingness to sacrifice there, I thought was good. The dead against the fiery trenches. I love that they stopped as soon as the trenches were lit. Like, this is going to kill them, no need to be wasted. Though all I'm thinking is, they've got all the time in the world. This is wood. It's going to eventually burn out. Is that their plan? Just stop and wait. Wait for it to burn itself out and then just walk through the trenches. Really thought that was going to be, and that would have made for even a longer night, I guess. But the Night King was pressed for time, so using some of the dead to just sacrifice themselves and slowly extinguish the fires, clear a path to go through. Again, brilliant, evil, dark, but brilliant. Oh, when I was talking about Sansa and Tyrion there in the crypt trading the little barbs, and Sansa being concerned that Tyrion's loyalties would be split, and that just wouldn't work for them. I love Missandei sort of throwing shade back at Sansa right there. Well, if it wasn't for the Dragon Queen, we'd all be dead already. Or we'd all be dead now. It's true! And I appreciate Missandei sort of standing up for Dany down there in the crypt right against Sansa. But, you know, like I said, good moment, little tension there between rulers. More of that to come, I'm sure. While I had said one of the frustrating things about our cool dragon fights were they were in the midst of storms and you couldn't see a whole lot, it was hard to sort of tell dragon from dragon at times, for me at least, we did have some beautiful shots up above the cloud cover, which was great as Jon and Dany are sort of raised up on the dragons looking for the Night King. It was just sort of beautiful shots and then diving back down. I mean, even that one shot as they're up there and then the Night King shooting with Viserion's blue fire up at Dany. And it was just cool stuff. When we could get some of those big overhead shots, just amazing things. God, how much money did they spend on this episode? All right, so the Great War is over. The living won. Yay! But of course, we still have 3 more episodes, and Sansa's still on the Iron Throne, and Dany definitely wants to be sitting there instead of her, and we still have the whole Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen type kind of thing. So yes, much more fun ahead. Also want to find out about the whole 2 dragons or 1 dragon left. Not entirely sure. And is Wolf dead? Or is Ghost dead? I hope not. Hope survived that initial attack. But still, lots of questions to find out. 3 more episodes left in the show. Maybe the Battle of the Night King was over faster than we expected it, but it's kind of appropriate. It shouldn't have lasted any longer. We do have all sorts of tie-up and rest of the actual Game of Thrones to occur. So I'm glad we still have 3 more chunky episodes to get through the whole Cersei Lannister battles, and Hound's going to be fighting his brother, and there's going to be some great awesomeness to come. Cannot wait. But that will wrap us up for tonight. Did go a little bit long. Thank you all for sticking around. Like I said, got 3 more episodes, Game of Thrones left. We just finished up Season 2 of American Gods. We do have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6 starting May 10th. And then Legion, I believe, is going to be in August. So quite a few more shows to come up. Very exciting stuff. Also, Avengers Endgame was out this weekend. I do have a spoiler review out there. Loved the movie. Did have a few questions. So, lots of things for you guys to check out, but that will end us for now. Thank you again for joining me on this review. Please let me know what you guys think. What was your favorite part of this episode? Did everybody die that you thought was going to? Were there a lot less deaths than you thought? More than you thought? Let me know down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Quick and easy one button press. Catch all these reviews. Don't miss anything. And we'll throw up a couple of our latest ones right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.